in the middle. Okay. Bonjour à tous et à toutes. Je vais faire quelques remarques introductives. I'll do some introduction, and then Mr. Tibbo will speak first, and I'll speak after, and Vanessa will conclude. Je vais commencer par quelques petits mots d'introduction. Il y a Robert Tibbo qui va commenter par la suite sur la situation à Hong Kong, et puis je vais parler par la suite et Vanessa va conclure. Alors on va faire ça comme ça, puis après on prendra vos questions. On est ici essentiellement pour 2 points. Tibbo va parler de la situation à Hong Kong, du développement et de l'insécurité ou de l'état d'insécurité à Hong Kong. Et par la suite, moi je vais parler de l'ajout de la nouvelle stratégie qu'on a ajoutée au dossier, c'est-à-dire le volet humanitaire et de compassion. On a déposé un grand cahier de preuves vendredi dernier et on vient parler de la réunification familiale, on vient parler du lien entre les enfants et leurs parents et entre les sœurs et les frères dans le dossier. Alors c'est de ça qu'on va parler aujourd'hui. Quite quickly, I just want to say I'm gonna let Robert detail you what's been happening in Hong Kong and what's the status of insecurity that's been increasing in the last weeks or months in Hong Kong. And after this, I'll be detailing about our new component to the file regarding humanitarian and compassionate grounds application, namely with regards to the best interest of the children, the separation between Keana and her father, and between Keana and her brother and sister, and we'll add a part for family reunification, and we're trying to get an expedited decision from Canada. So I'll let Rob introduce and start, and I'll be after. Maître Robert Tibbo.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to be raising a number of points that relate to Hong Kong, and also a number of issues that have been recently raised with Germany and Europe relating to Hong Kong. Last week, the German Federal Office for Migration and Refugees confirmed its decision to grant refugee status based on persecution for political opinion by two Hong Kong Chinese political activists. And this case was originally reported by the New York Times and the Financial Times last week. And Germany actually had acknowledged the refugee status of the two Hong Kong political activists in May 2018, so about a year ago. Also, the German Foreign Ministry made a statement subsequent to acknowledging this, saying that, and I'm quoting the German Foreign Ministry, German government is increasingly concerned about the diminishing space for political opposition and gradual erosion of the freedom of opinion and press, particularly in connection with political issues. So this was a very, very significant decision by the German government in stepping forward and exercising its international legal obligations under the United Nations Convention relating to the status of refugees. Now, just to point out, the Hong Kong authorities over the past decade or more have been systematically targeting political opponents, journalists, human rights activists, political activists, asylum seekers and refugees, most significantly the Snowden refugees, and I'm going to go into that, and also lawyers. Beijing itself, since about 2014, has been very proactive in intervening and interfering with the political system and legal system in Hong Kong, in particular, Beijing interfering with the Hong Kong judiciary concerning the oath-taking issue by democratically elected pro-democracy legislators. Okay, and what to really focus in on the two Hong Kong activists, who are Ray Wong and Alan Lee, they have now received international protection by the German government due to the persecution by the Hong Kong authorities. Now, the Snowden refugees have been targeted by the Hong Kong government, and that's been well documented publicly. And this has been based on political opinion. The fact that they sheltered Mr. Snowden and that they voiced their support for Mr. Snowden and his disclosures of the United States government and the other Five Eyes nations electronic mass surveillance activities on different countries and civilians. Now, going to the decision by the German authorities, what this has done is it now sets a precedent in international law that the Hong Kong government persecutes those individuals with opposing or different political opinions in Hong Kong. And this has this points to the erosion of rule of law in Hong Kong, and also the erosion of the independence of the judiciary in Hong Kong. And this is nothing new for the human rights lawyers in Hong Kong. This is not a surprise to me as a human rights lawyer in Hong Kong, acting for Mr. Snowden and acting for the Snowden Refugees. The Hong Kong government has been behaving this way for a very long time, okay? And the German decision simply just affirms, what we already knew. And this has significant bearing on the Snowden refugee cases with the Canadian government. What this does is it affirms our case that the Snowden refugees have been discriminated against systematically by the Hong Kong authorities, and it amounts to persecution based on political opinion. Okay? Now, I need to qualify that, and my colleague Guillaume Cliche-Rivard will go into this when he talks about the new application that's been filed. But because the Hong Kong government has not signed the UN Convention relating to the status of refugees, and because the Hong Kong government doesn't recognize asylum seekers and refugees, the Hong Kong government has a policy and legal framework where every asylum seeker and refugee, whether they are an applicant or they win, are considered illegal immigrants. They're considered criminals. Even the children, Vanessa's child is stateless, Keana. The other Snowden refugee children, Dinath and Setamdi, they're stateless, but they hold the same identity documents that somebody who's been convicted of a criminal offense in Hong Kong. So they have no legal status. And because of that, the Snowden refugees are not able to bring a persecution claim and file it into Canada based on Hong Kong government's persecution of them. But Mr. Rivard will go into the technicalities of that. So before going into greater detail on the Canadian refugee case, I want to raise a few points about what the Hong Kong government has done since Germany confirmed the two refugees were recognized, the Hong Kong refugees were recognized. Okay. Last year, Chinese diplomats from the Chinese embassy in Germany had actually engaged the German government and tried to interfere with the German government granting asylum and the screening process for the two Hong Kong activists. So this has been direct interference by Beijing in the refugee screening process in Germany, in sovereign territory of Germany. The German government refused to engage the Chinese officers and would not disclose anything, which is the proper approach. Beijing has now, since last week, accused Germany of violating international law, okay? When in fact, Germany was strictly following international law. They were following rule of law. The Hong Kong authorities have lashed out at the German government over the last week, demanding that details of the refugee cases be disclosed, indicating that they want the refugees returned to Hong Kong to face criminal proceedings, which will not happen. They've been granted refugee status and they won't be sent back to Hong Kong. The Hong Kong government, the executive branch, and pro-Beijing legislators have lashed out at Germany, making a number of unfounded, without any evidence, allegations against the German government, okay? And including false allegations against the German government. And I'm going to give you some examples. The chief executive of Hong Kong, Carrie Lam, said, Germany unjustifiably undermined the reputation of Hong Kong's rule of law and judiciary, okay? She also, Regina Ip, who's an advisor to the Carrie Lam's government, said that Germany had slapped in the face, Hong Kong was slapped in the face by the German decision to grant refugee status, okay? What I want to emphasize is Hong Kong has single-handedly earned this reputation as a government that persecutes, okay? Other legislators that are pro-Beijing, Holden Chow and Stanley have made similar comments. Priscilla Leung, who's a barrister in Hong Kong, a professor of law at City University of Hong Kong, and a legislator, has said that the German decision to grant refugee status was politically motivated, okay, and it violated international principles. Now, I'm at a loss what these international principles are, in particular because Priscilla Leung has been an advocate that Hong Kong should withdraw from the United Nations Convention Against Torture, okay? Carrie Lam has accused Germany of ignoring the facts in the refugee cases. Holden Chow has accused Germany of misleading the public. He's another pro-democracy, pro-Beijing legislator. Stanley another pro-Beijing legislator, accused the government of racism against the Chinese people, against China. Now, to give you some context, both Regina Ip and Priscilla Leung in 2016 called for detention and concentration camps for all asylum seekers, including children. And that would have applied to Vanessa and her innocent, stateless daughter, Keana. And Priscilla Leung and Regina Ip had called for these detention concentration camps to be located in mainland Chinese territory, okay? The other thing that Priscilla Leung, pro-Beijing legislator, had said 3 years ago was that Hong Kong should withdraw from the United Nations Convention Against Torture to allow Hong Kong an exception so that they could return people back to their countries where they'd be tortured. So these are the people now criticizing Germany for complying with rule of law, okay? And these are the same people who would be more than happy to send people back to be persecuted, tortured, and killed, okay? These legislators are disgraceful, okay? The advisor to the Hong Kong government, Regina Ip, is disgraceful in her comments on the German government and what she said in the past, okay? So you have a situation here where the Hong Kong government has no credibility, also because they reject pretty much every single asylum claim, okay? So this reaction by Beijing and Hong Kong against Germany and against the asylum seekers who were granted refugee status in Germany further supports that Hong Kong is a government that persecutes those with opposing political opinion. So there's two incidents here. The persecution in before 2017, around 2017, of the two Hong Kong activists, and again, clear evidence that the Hong Kong government is going after these two activists again. Okay, so again, all that Hong Kong has done the last week is cement its reputation that it does not respect international law, doesn't respect human rights international law, and doesn't respect international humanitarian law. Now, what I'd like to summarize in what the Hong Kong government has done is they've basically exposed their ignorance, immaturity, and improper conduct by lashing out at the German authorities. Basically, this is the Hong Kong government having a temper tantrum. Okay, but more significantly, this is very significant in that it's consistent in how authoritarian-style governments behave. There's really no factual or legal basis for the Hong Kong government to complain about what the German government had done. Okay. Now, what I would like to point out at this stage, okay, is that the Snowden refugees still in Hong Kong are at the mercy of the Hong Kong government, and they've been persecuted for the last 3 years by the Hong Kong government. They stand alone compared to the rest of the refugee community. It's on record how they've been questioned about Mr. Snowden, the Social Welfare Department, International Social Services, the police. The police had actually tried to investigate my clients and myself because they were trying to make a criminal case that the Snowden refugees and myself had made up a story about the Sri Lankan police coming to Hong Kong to target them. So overall, you have a situation where this German case is now precedent, a legal precedent under international law that confirms our view that the remaining 5 Snowden refugees in Hong Kong are at personal and immediate risk to their safety, security. For Sapun and his family, Sapun, Nadika, and the 2 children, Sapun is the father of Keana, Vanessa's daughter. and the half-siblings, Setumbi and Dinath, are the brother and sister of Keana. They are at risk of being deported to Sri Lanka at this time. All their cases were rejected by the Hong Kong authorities. And now it's up to the High Court to decide what to do. But they're still at risk of being deported. The other thing I'd like to point out here is the Hong Kong authorities also rejected Vanessa and her daughter's refugee claims. But Canada stepped forward and accepted those claims. So that is a clear indication that Canada is applying the law correctly, and it exposes the fallacy of a broken refugee screening system in Hong Kong. Our main concerns at this time are that with the German precedent and the submissions we've made historically to the Canadian government, is that the families in Hong Kong need to be brought into Canada at the earliest time. It's in the best interest of the children that this happens, okay? They are literally in a situation that amounts to a humanitarian crisis and a human rights crisis for this family. So what I'll do is I'm going to pass this on to my learned colleague, Guillaume Cliche-Rivard, and he's going to discuss the action that we have taken subsequent to these events. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Just before doing that, juste avant de faire ça, je vais quand même prendre l'occasion très rapidement de dire peut-être en français rapidement ce que Robert a dit, mais vraiment très rapidement parce qu'il a parlé pendant plusieurs minutes. Mais essentiellement, le fait que l'Allemagne ait accordé le statut de réfugié à ces gens-là démontre que Hong Kong crée des situations de refuge, est un persécuteur au sens de la Convention. Ce qui avait été un petit peu plus difficile, en fait, dans le passé, parce qu'il n'y avait pas de précédent, ou peu de précédent à l'effet que des opposants ou des gens d'Hong Kong se voyaient accorder le statut de réfugié par une démocratie libérale, un peu comme l'Allemagne, qui a un système d'asile qui est similaire à celui du Canada. Alors, ça vient beaucoup ajouter à la crédibilité de nos craintes, des persécutions qui sont alléguées. En fait, ça fait juste confirmer ce que Maître Tibbo dit depuis plusieurs années, ce qu'on dit depuis plusieurs années, à l'effet que Hong Kong est capable de persécution. Hong Kong est un persécuteur, et là, c'est confirmé par pas juste nous, pas juste le Canada, mais c'est confirmé par l'Allemagne aussi. Alors, ça vient ajouter beaucoup de poids et de crédibilité à ce qu'on a allégué, puis ce qu'on continue d'alléguer pour ces Snowden Refugees. Alors, c'est essentiellement ça le point qu'on faisait. Ça vient vraiment asseoir ou appuyer l'argument légal. Pour ce qui est du volet humanitaire, I'll be detailing this a bit briefly more in English afterwards, but I'll start in French. Le volet refuge est toujours exploité pour les autres demandeurs. On n'abandonne pas le volet refuge, mais on vient ajouter à ça un volet humanitaire, un volet de compassion, puis un volet de réunification familiale. Ça, c'est nouveau en ce sens où on a fait ça, le dossier de demande a été envoyé vendredi dernier, mais c'est nouveau en ce sens où Vanessa et Keana sont ici depuis peu, et c'est à partir de ce temps-là que la réunification familiale devient un enjeu, parce que là, on a une résidente permanente, on a une petite fille résidente permanente aussi qui se trouve séparée de leur famille, et ça, c'est un nouvel enjeu. Du moment où ils étaient à Hong Kong, là, on avait plutôt le refuge, les craintes de persécution. Là, on a en plus de ça une crise humanitaire. En fait, Keana est séparé de son père, et le père de Keana, Soupoun, est séparé de sa fille, et ça cause une détresse absolument immense pour Keana, qui ne peut pas vivre, en fait, et Vanessa va en parler, mais ne peut pas vivre sans son père. On ne peut pas séparer une petite fille de son père. Je n'ai pas besoin de vous expliquer ça plus longuement. C'est la base de l'humanité ou de la compassion. Un père doit pouvoir grandir avec sa fille, une petite fille doit pouvoir grandir avec son père. Et là, on se retrouve dans une situation extrêmement délicate et difficile où la petite a été séparée de son père pendant 2 mois déjà. Et là, combien de temps ça va durer, où les deux vont être séparés, ça ne peut plus continuer. Et Keana a récemment dû consulter une psychologue. Keana a été évaluée par une psychologue ici à Montréal qui a été capable de confirmer la détresse de la petite, qui a été capable de documenter le fait que la petite Keana, même si elle nous apparaît là, souvent avec son grand sourire, puis elle est quand même une petite fille joviale, elle pose beaucoup de questions à sa mère, elle pose beaucoup de questions le soir. Pourquoi papa n'est pas là? Why daddy isn't here? Can I speak with daddy? Can I speak to my sister? Est-ce que je peux parler à ma sœur? Bref, il y a quelque chose de brisé, puis c'est normal parce que la petite ne peut pas voir son père. Et ça se répercute aussi avec son frère et sa sœur, qui sont Dinat et Setumdi, qui sont eux aussi encore à Hong Kong. Et elle a beaucoup d'inquiétudes pour eux aussi. Elle nous pose la question de savoir pourquoi est-ce qu'ils peuvent pas venir avec nous? Qu'est-ce qui va se passer avec eux? Est-ce que c'est vrai qu'ils vont être déportés d'Hong Kong? Beaucoup d'insécurité, beaucoup d'incertitudes, beaucoup de détresse chez Keana. Et cette même détresse-là, elle est vécue aussi par Setumdi et Dinat, qui eux aussi sont très inquiets. Faut savoir que Setumdi, c'est une petite fille qui a vécu beaucoup de discrimination dans sa vie de par sa couleur. Dans un pays comme la Chine à 95% chinois, là, où il n'y a pas beaucoup de différences, où il n'y a pas beaucoup d'autres cultures. Elle se fait moquer pour son accent, elle se fait moquer parce qu'elle est différente. Et Keana a toujours été pour elle une force stable, disons sa meilleure amie. Et là, elle a été séparée de sa meilleure amie, puis ça devient très difficile. C'est comme un autre claque au visage pour une petite fille qui en a vécu une et une autre, là, des claques au visage. Alors pour elle, c'est très difficile. Elle aussi a été évaluée par un psychologue à Hong Kong qui a aussi pu documenter gravement la détresse psychologique qu'elle a vécue. Alors ça, c'est pour l'intérêt supérieur des enfants. Bien sûr, Dinat, il a 3 ans, alors c'est un petit peu difficile de parler à sa place, là, mais on sent quand même que le petit Dinat l'a difficile aussi, puis va vivre les mêmes choses, puis la même discrimination, puis le même stigma social que sa sœur. Alors, on peut juste deviner que leur meilleur intérêt, puis leur intérêt supérieur rapidement, c'est d'être unifiés avec leur sœur, mais d'être réunis aussi au Canada dans une société d'accueil positive où ils vont pouvoir entreprendre avec une carte d'identité, avec des documents, avec une identité ou simplement légale, une vie, ce qui n'est pas le cas à Hong Kong. Alors ça, c'est pour le volet d'intérêt supérieur de l'enfant qu'on a ajouté au dossier. Puis pour moi, personnellement, le Canada ne peut pas se permettre de séparer cette famille-là à long terme. C'est tout simplement pas possible. Puis j'espère que vous en conviendrez avec nous. Keana ne peut pas grandir sans son père. Voilà, ça c'est le cœur de notre argument. Bien sûr, quand on compare la vie qu'ils ont à Hong Kong, quand on compare les conditions de vie assez pénibles au Sri Lanka pour ces familles-là, notamment avec le nouveau niveau d'insécurité au Sri Lanka, vous l'avez couvert, vous l'avez vu, mais il y a beaucoup d'incertitudes et d'insécurité au Sri Lanka. Comparativement à la vie qu'ils pourraient avoir ici, comparativement à l'appui public, aux donations, aux gens qui aident Vanessa, aux gens qui sont inclus ici, il y a 2 mondes, là. Il y a un monde ouvert, positif, agréable, avec un parrainage privé, des fonds privés, et de l'autre côté, il n'y a rien. Il y a eux tout seuls, sans papier, sans assistance sociale, dans un monde agressif, dans un monde où ils ne sont pas capables de faire leur développement personnel. Alors, vraiment, quand on balance les deux, quand on balance la détresse, quand on balance le stigma versus la vie que Vanessa est capable de vivre ici avec Keana, ça tombe sous le sens là, que le Canada doit les accepter. Briefly in English, what we've added recently is a humanitarian component to the file. We've been adding this lately because before that time, Vanessa and Keana were still living in Hong Kong with the families, but now they have been separated, and this is a new fact in the case. Vanessa and Keana are here for 2 months now, and it's been that time since Keana hasn't seen her father, and since Supun, Keana's father, was not able to see his daughter. And same with regards to the brothers and sisters together. They weren't able to play together, to develop relationship together, and the last months have been very difficult. We filed this last Friday, which adds to the refugee component. It's not us abandoning anything. It's not us forgetting the refugee application. It's just us applying more and giving more grounds and more evidence regarding the humanitarian factors and compassionate ground in the case, and pushing Canada a bit forward to reunite this family as soon as possible. We can't have a daughter separated from his father for more than 2 months, or even 2 months, it's too long, and we need them to be reunited as soon as possible. I mean, one can only relate to being separated with their child, or one child being separated from their father. This cannot stand, and this cannot stay the way it is now. And it's absolutely important that Canada takes a positive and active and quick decision to reunite those families. Keana has been living a lot of distress. She consulted a psychologist recently here in Montreal, and that psychologist was able to help her a bit, but also to assess and document the distress she's been living. She's been asking for her father. She's been asking for her sister. They had the chance to discuss on video and have little moments, but those moments are nothing like a hug, or nothing like physical presence of a father and daughter and sister relationship. So it's absolutely important for her and for Vanessa that the family be reunificated quickly. And this is the same for Setumdi and Dinat, the kids there in Hong Kong. They've been living in an absolutely aggressive environment. They don't have a right to be where they are. They don't have citizenship. They're stateless, and they don't have a future, period. And this application is completely in their best interest. And I would say that if you compare the conditions in Hong Kong, if you compare the possible extreme insecurity, they could live in Sri Lanka. And if you compare all of this to what Vanessa and Keana has been positively living in Canada, with support, with help of the community, with great help financially from the private sector, from people donating directly for those refugee private claims, it's clear that their best interest is that they'll all be awarded the chance to get into Canada quickly. So that would be my final comments, and I would like Vanessa to give a little words as to what Keana and her have been living in the last weeks.
I heard what said. I heard what my lawyers, Mr. Tibbo and Guillaume, had said. I want to thank Mr. Robert Tibbo and Guillaume for getting me, my Canada and I refugee status in Canada. And I would like to also to thank Mr. Minton for all her support to my daughter and I to settle in Montreal. And I want to say my daughter should not growing up with her father in Canada, without her father in Canada. My daughter should not growing up in Canada with her father and her half-sisters and her brothers, Dinat and Setundi. I mean to say, my daughter should not be growing up in Canada without her sister and brother, Dinat and Setundi. And Keana's father Supun, brother and sister, they remain with risk, and they were being deported to Sri Lanka. They have been prosecuted by the Hong Kong since 2016. I don't know why Canada did not all bring Snowden refugee into Canada in one time. And my family has been divided, and I asked Canada to act now. To bring the family all together.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Mercy, thank you.
So I think we'll be taking your questions directly, but more or less in French. Vanessa stated elle voulait que sa famille soit réunie le plus vite possible et demandait au Canada de les rapatrier, de les amener ici le plus vite possible pour que les familles soient ensemble. Any questions?
Merci beaucoup de Radio-Canada. Est-ce que vous avez déjà déposé votre demande, n'est-ce pas?
Oui, on a déposé la demande vendredi. Vendredi, on a ajouté à la demande. Alors, c'est pas une nouvelle demande qui repart à zéro, c'est vraiment l'ajout d'un motif humanitaire, ce qui est prévu par la loi sur l'immigration. C'est prévu par la loi qu'on peut faire ça. Et donc, on vient ajouter, au-delà du risque de persécution, on vient ajouter un volet humanitaire de compassion puis de réunification familiale.
Est-ce que vous pensez que ça va bonifier le dossier de l'accélération de la procédure?
C'est notre espoir que ça va bonifier puis accélérer. Honnêtement, personnellement, je vois pas comment on peut rejeter au niveau humanitaire. Je trouverais ça extrêmement préoccupant et difficile. Je pense que vous le ressentez aussi. Ça tombe sous le sens qu'un père doit être réuni avec sa fille et autres. Alors, si ça peut aider, nous, on a fait nos devoirs en avance. Avant qu'on nous demande ces motifs-là, on les a soumis, vraiment pour montrer que, regardez, là, il y a ça aussi, il y a ce facteur-là. Au-delà du refuge, il y a un volet de compassion et humanitaire extrêmement important.
There are a lot of people watching in Australia and Europe.
Okay.
Maybe in English.
I'm gonna just translate that answer because there's a live feed. There's a lot of people around the world watching. But more or less, the question was asked as to, do you think this will add, or and was this filed already? So yeah, this was filed last Friday, and it's not us abandoning the refugee claim. It's really us adding to the file and adding a new component. And we think this is, with respect, an obvious choice that Canada needs to make. With respect, Canada cannot separate those families any longer. And I think we're improving or strengthening the fact or the case very much because when you think about a daughter and a father separated, when you think about sisters separated, I don't think Canada can accept or can be responsible of doing so. So we're adding to the case. We're not abandoning the refugee claim at all. The refugee claim is solid. It's there, and it's been demonstrated by Mr. Tibbo how credible those claims are. But it's absolutely important to, moreover, assess the humanitarian component of that case, because a father and a daughter can't be separated that much longer.
And if I may add that the decisions by Germany further reinforces these cases.
Agreed.
Basically, the decisions say that Hong Kong lacks the rule of law, the judicial independence has been eroded, and Canada's now been put on notice of this, and they have to address that properly.
Lorsqu'on parle de ce genre de demande-là, c'est des mois, c'est très très long. Les demandes avaient déjà été déposées. Lorsqu'on ajoute, est-ce que ça accélère ou je vis dans un monde licorne?
Mon espoir, parce que là, le dossier tarde un petit peu plus que celui de Vanessa, puis je peux pas commenter sur le pourquoi, là, j'ai pas ces informations-là, mais ce qu'on espère, c'est peut-être donner une issue ou peut-être donner un argument ou un argument convaincant supplémentaire. Mon point, c'est surtout pas de ralentir les choses, mais peut-être de donner un way out ou peut-être de donner une version plus simple ou plus facile, parce que pour moi, les motifs humanitaires sont tellement probants que peut-être que ça peut prendre moins de temps à évaluer cet aspect-là qui est si simple, réunification d'un père et sa fille, versus peut-être un dossier d'asile qui est un peu plus complexe. Alors pour moi, c'est plutôt dans une logique de facilitation du dossier. The question was asked with regards to do you fear delaying the case because of that humanitarian component? I think it's the very opposite. I think the idea is to accelerate the case and to maybe give not a way out, but certainly a push, an additional push to maybe give Canada an easier or a quicker way to assess positively those claims. That's my aim. I mean, it's not very much difficult to assess the need for a daughter and a father to be reunited. I mean, just saying the words might be sufficient in my opinion, compared to a refugee claim which needs to be assessed a bit more substantively and in detail. I feel my aim and our aim here is to accelerate the process and to maybe give Canada a quick and easier way to accept them and reunite them as soon as possible.
Donc, question, si je comprends bien, ça concerne cette demande-là, le père, le frère et la sœur. Est-ce qu'il y a aussi une autre...
Il y a une autre mère, oui, il y a Nadika, oui.
C'est ça. Donc, 4 personnes, il reste 2 personnes. Est-ce qu'après ça, on va avoir terminé tous les anges gardiens? Il y en avait 7, je pense.
Il y en a 7. Oui. OK. Donc, il y en a 7. Il y en a 2 ici, Keana et Vanessa. La famille de 4 qui est Supun, les 2 enfants et leur femme Nadika. Puis il reste Ajit, qui est le dernier, le soldat, le soldier, l'ex-soldat, le déserteur. Pour l'instant, pour aujourd'hui, pour lui, j'ai pas de nouvelles à offrir. Son dossier continue d'avancer. C'est sûr que pour lui, il n'y a pas le même volet de réunification. Il n'est pas un membre de la famille, alors c'est pas les mêmes arguments. Mais on continue d'aller de l'avant avec son dossier. Il va rester lui. Et donc, si on réussit à rentrer les 4 sur le volet humanitaire, il va rester Ajit. Ou peut-être qu'Ajit viendra avant ou après ou pendant, je le sais pas. So just to summarize, there's Vanessa and Keana here, part of the 7, and there's 5 more in Hong Kong. There's Ajit, the ex-soldier from Sri Lanka as well. We don't have news related to this case today to offer, but we have good hopes that the case will move forward in the next months or weeks, or I'm waiting for positive news, and you'll be informed if this happens. Regarding the other 4, those are the 4 onto which we're filing the application today, last Friday, and that we're divulgating or we're acknowledging this fact before you today. So these are the 7, and we can't very much make the same compelling humanitarian argument for Ajit because he's not member directly of the family per se, but this does not make this claim less credible or less substantial.
Mais en fait, étant donné que c'est un ex-soldat, est-ce que son cas n'est pas plus urgent? Est-ce qu'il n'est pas peut-être potentiellement plus en danger en tant que déserteur que les membres de la famille? Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres choses que vous avez envisagées pour lui?
Ils sont tous en danger imminent. La différence, c'est que la famille de 4 a vu son dossier rejeté par Hong Kong, alors que le dossier d'Ajit est encore à l'étude par Hong Kong. Ce qui fait qu'il y a une urgence plus notoire pour les 4. Mais Ajit, c'est ça, ils sont toujours dans le système d'Hong Kong, alors que Ajit est toujours dans le système, alors que les autres sont en voie de déportation imminente. C'est ce qui fait qu'on met l'urgence sur ce dossier-là. I was asked if Ajit's case is not more serious or should not receive more attention than the others. My answer to this was that Ajit's appeal is still ongoing in Hong Kong. There's no negative decision from Hong Kong, which is not the case for the four. The family of four has been rejected, their appeal has been rejected, and they're presently before the high courts, and they're at risk of imminent removal. So for us, all claims are very substantiated, they're all very strong cases, but at this very time, the family of four risks removal, where Ajit still waiting for his decision in appeal, so is a bit more protected. But would that be different? You would see us comment and push for his case as well directly. If you want to add, Rob, or no?
No.
Okay.
That's quite clear.
Would you be able to talk a little bit about their living situation and their state of mind right now?
Ajit, I'll just talk about Ajit a little bit. He's significantly emotionally, psychologically compromised, and we're doing the best to support him in Hong Kong. And again, as Guillaume has mentioned, his case is very, very strong on its own merits. But he's been in Hong Kong since 2003, and he is compromised, and Canada really needs to make a decision quickly and bring him into Canada. The other four, Supun Nadika, the two kids, the stateless children, and one thing I want to point out is the Canadian government, when they granted refugee status to Keana, on the single journey travel document from Hong Kong to Canada, for nationality, it's actually printed stateless, okay? So the other two children in Hong Kong are under the same circumstances. They are stateless. They are living with the donations that have been raised through our efforts. The family's basic needs are being met, but they face discrimination on a daily basis from people in society. They face discrimination from the schools and the government, and all the children except the 2-year-old Dina, he's a bit too young. Supun Nadika and Setumdi, they've all seen a psychiatrist who's evaluated them, and Supun is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. He's extremely compromised, the reports support that on a humanitarian basis that this family should be brought into Canada right away. They are suffering. Right now, the family sees hope with Vanessa and Keana being in Canada, and that seems to be the only thread that is holding them up, and it's a thread. So again, this family needs to be brought here quickly, and with the compassionate humanitarian grounds application that Guillaume Cliche-Rivard prepared, I worked with him on that. Canada needs to address it now and act now. And it's in the best interest for these children to be brought here.
Second question, I don't know if Vanessa is able, maybe with a bit of your help, to just tell a little bit about her life in Canada. We haven't really spoken since you arrived. How is Canada? Anything?
Now I already get my new apartment, and it's so really nice. It's a really big. It's double size in my home in Hong Kong here in Canada, so it's more bigger. And the food here is Canada. So much we love so much because it's more fresh and more cheap than in Hong Kong. And the people here is very friendly. When you're lost or you don't know anything, you can ask them and they can answer you back very nicely. So it's a very big difference in Hong Kong. And now I already got my ID cards for 2 weeks when I arrived in Canada. So the first time I got ID card in permanent resident, so I'm so happy. And I already go to my friend's class. It's so amazing because I already got my student's ID. And the first time for 17 years I back to school. The first time is so hard for me, but every day I try to learn. So I'm enjoying to learn French. And Keana also go to school in French school, and she's up and down because maybe there's no friend for her, but sometimes she's happy, sometimes she's sad. But she's so happy because we go to the Montreal, we walk many places, and we're enjoying a lot because here is so fresh air, and we have freedom. We are free, and we are safety. And so I can go anywhere I want, that I don't have any scared that I'm being arrested by the police, questioning by immigration, and stop giving any assistance from the government. So I'm starting everything here, and I'm so glad because I'm here right now.
What is your feeling about have an ID, a real ID?
Sorry?
What is your feeling about to have a real ID, to be somebody in somewhere?
Oh, it's amazing feelings. I can't explain, but I feel like I'll win a first prize of lotto because I don't have for 17 years. I only have a piece of paper that in Hong Kong, nobody knows, can recognize what is this paper. But here, I just open my wallet and I can see my card and I say, oh, you have PR. And the first times I really don't know what's the PR. And I said, oh, I'm so lucky because when I arrived here, within 2 weeks, I have everything that I don't have in Hong Kong. And I'm very thankful with my lawyer, Mr. Robert Tibbo, Guillaume, for getting me here in Canada.
Ça va? Autre question? Complet? Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup de vous être présenté aujourd'hui. Sincèrement, merci. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming here today. Do you want to go to the camera? You want to give your mom a hug?
Mademoiselle, s'il vous
Oh,
plaît.
are you in me? Are you okay?
Yeah. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Keana.
Mercy. Yeah.
Brother is 3, and the other sister is younger. Both of them.
Yeah, but she's older than the one.
Okay, but they are both 7.
Yeah, but she's born she was born.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Like it?